Hey, my fellow multidimensionals, it's Asia Andromeda, founder of multidimensionalu.com, coming to you on a very wintry September day here in Montana. So in this weekly vlog, there are a few points that have seemed to really be coming through the field right now. Remember, as a multidimensional channel, I'm just kind of a conduit for the Wayshower Starseeds collective, right? Kind of think of it as a sub-collective of the human population, to have a conversation with ourselves, right? So what seems to really be emphasized right now, and I, you know, when I look back at the arc of all the work I've done in the emergence experience with people, I see this. It is going from the contracted state, you know, occupying, embodying this avatar from a limited physical perspective, usually with some distortion and certainly density. And then over time, what we're being asked to do is continue to expand into our greater multidimensional self and embody that and bring that energetic to the planet, to the population at this time, right? So this is a huge revolution and evolution in human, in the human species. And it really boils down to consciousness. But what is consciousness? What we're talking about are, you know, what I'm seeing in the last month over and over again, the upgrade of this avatar into its light form, the crystalline light body. Sometimes the information that comes in talks about the rainbow body. And so we are really beginning to work with this physical matter and infusing it with more spirit, if you will, much more higher dimensional light codes. So we are reprogramming this reality at all times by the way in which we embody this consciousness. And so a huge theme that's been coming through, obviously, if you've been following me, you've got my fun little Sasquatch doll for the big man that's here back in the wilderness outside of the Bitterroot Valley in Montana. You know, it's this rebuilding the family, putting the family back together, and it's not just the human family. And it's about bringing to a close, completion seems to be a theme right now, completion of a phase, an era where we were exploring, you know, density, the descension cycle, and now pulling back up. It's like, I've seen this interesting phenomenon of sources in hot pursuit. And there's like a yo-yo effect. So you kind of get to the end of that, and then it triggers the ascension cycle. And that can play itself out, obviously, over eons. But here in this corner of the multiverse, it's very clear that we are more interested in ascension now than descension, right? The return to one, the return to source, ultimately. And, you know, if you follow galactic history, there's been a lot of conflict. And I personally am very interested in exploring new ways in which to interact, to embody a physical form, to build civilizations, to communicate in between civilizations, on planet, off planet. I'm much more interested in that emerging paradigm than I am in what I still see, and I used to be there myself, a lot of Wayshowers getting caught up in, and that is winning this battle of like light and dark and throwing off the negative alien agenda and all of that. And I would really encourage all of us to shift our pronouns to the we, because I've seen this over and over again in my own direct experience and a lot of the work I do, which is kind of like, there's a reason I call myself an intergalactic shaman, right? Because you're starting to, I'm facilitating people reconnecting to the greater multidimensional self, the oversoul, and all of these different aspects, which include beings that maybe right now in this embodiment of your conscious avatar, you hold prejudice against, or, you know, you see them as the arch nemesis, and we have to win, we have to, you know, and it's time to pull out into maybe the 11th dimensional embodiment and hold the inclusion. It's an inclusionary container. And when we do that, we start to collapse a lot of the polarity, the conflict, the winning and losing, because if you win, someone's going to lose, and it's just going to go back and forth and back and forth. I know so many of you who are here with me on this channel, we're just not interested in that anymore. That's not that interesting, right? That's a tired, old paradigm. So what I would encourage all of us to do, if you catch yourself there, maybe you catch a glimpse of whatever news it happens to be that is still in that paradigm of pitting groups against one another, to gently move yourself out of that and remember to come, that's what it feels like to me. It's like, oh, right, take a breath and expand the field back out and hold this very high vibrational, unconditional loving space in the 0 point and out of that supercharged emotional polarization. Because here's the thing, right? Okay, this came through in a couple of sessions in the last few weeks. Thoughts are energy, and energy is power. And when we're in a polarity paradigm, we are actually weakening the higher dimensional grid system of the planet rather than powering it up. It really does matter. It's important. It's important that we all pull ourselves out of victim consciousness, scarcity consciousness, conflict consciousness, winning and losing, competition, hierarchy, all of it. And I can feel there's a trigger for some of you coming up in that solar plexus area. There's this feeling of, but then they are going to win. What if we can't just let them do all of this stuff? There's no us and them. If you hold the container of the we, you are so much more powerful and efficient at collapsing your worst fears realized on this planet. I was finishing up the emergence experience with someone recently, and Yeshua took over, and he had to speak directly to the person's ego, right, construct, this lower self. And the message was basically, you have got to agree to lose. And when you do that, right, this tug of war that the ego will get into and resistance, you are able to transcend into your multidimensional embodiment. And then you're just in a completely different paradigm. But it was fascinating to watch him work because he knew exactly what the person needed at the level they needed it at. So, this has been the most challenging year for me since 2012, and that is saying something. That was the year I went through massive deconstruction, felt like I got hit by another cosmic 2x4, and I can feel it. We're in just another massive reorganization, realignment right now, and so I'm calling this period refinement. Many of you, like me, have been through your awakening, and you can tell, like, wow, I thought I was done with this shadow work, and it's coming back for further refinement. And we are able to work with this avatar in really interesting and new ways. And I see a trend where a lot of the starseed wayshowers on the planet have embodied as women, myself included, and I have a theory about this. I have a theory that we're working with the fundamental constructs for nurture, rather than it's like procurement, right? Survival. Like the divine feminine comes much more easily in this particular gender construct. I know there's variations here, but I'm kind of going for a bigger theme. Obviously, right? We wonder, like, well, why didn't I incarnate as a man? Like, I would have had more power. Here comes a beautiful hawk. And it's not true. We actually are able to tap our power center, which is in the 0 point, which is in the heart center, much more readily in this particular gender construct. So I got pretty passionate earlier this morning. I'm really tired of seeing conflict, and I won't be part of it. So that means I'm going to be amping my field up even more, bringing the light and the love even more, and holding the dark, right? The dark is not fundamentally evil. We have all these really strange distortions. Light and dark are such a beautiful mix and interplay. I see them oftentimes in my pineal gland at night. There's this beautiful interplay. And the other night, I was really curious. I've seen this 5 or 6 times now playing out, right? The pineal gland has rods and cones, just like our eyes do. It's just processing information from higher dimensions. And so I was watching it very carefully. And what I saw didn't really surprise me. The light came out of the dark. The 0 point is the field of infinite potential. So don't be afraid of the dark. If you've been following me for a while, you know I've been in communication with a lot of different beings, like I was saying earlier, many of whom people would consider, whoa, they're dangerous, they're bad, they're malevolent. And yeah, maybe they've been in a power over others paradigm in different groups. But we can't categorically just, whitewash everyone. There's so much diversity in the multiverse. But yeah, in this case, you would think, oh boy, why would you be talking to those groups? And it was very enlightening. So what I'm talking about are reptilians, demonics. And, if we just kind of set down our fear and we put ourselves in these other beings' shoes, you'll start to recognize, well, these people, and I've had them show me this repeatedly, are trapped in a extremely hierarchical, society. They don't have much wiggle room, right? And many of them kind of like on the side, like have asked me for assistance, not wanting to be seen by others, right? Because the collective, well, we know, if you're Starseed Wayshower on planet Earth, you know what it's like to fear ridicule. You know what it's like to be concerned about other people fearing you, projecting their judgments at you and their fear, even their anger. So we're in this beautiful, great reckoning right now of coming back together as one giant family, no matter what form we're in. And I have experience with, like 7 of my different forms, which began with Winaji, my all-white Sasquatch female shaman, who really helped me. I felt like she took me, at her apron strings when I was just beginning my awakening back in 2011, 12, at this level, right, of kind of going beyond being a spirit medium. And we're coming back to the one. So, this has been a very challenging time for many of us. I would just say be comfortable with being uncomfortable. And just see what arises. So much of what I'm also seeing is the mode of operation that we're in is changing. So the old model of like get things done versus surrender and allow. It's a huge shift that we're in. And just remember, your higher, greater multidimensional self is pulling off so much work. It's coordinating so much, quote unquote, behind the scenes. So in some ways, it's good to just kind of let the mind be a little bit more radio silent and not so right. So I hope you enjoy this beautiful song. I'm going to swing this around so you can enjoy that view. It's kind of a whiteout here today. I heard the elk bugling the other night, late into the night. They came down before the snow, right? They know. They have this built-in system of being able to be connected to the field. I guess that's the final thing I'll end on, is just what's really exciting to me is instead of conflict and military style, like nation states and even galactic civilizations interfacing with one another, what is it like when the populations of a planet come back into a deep connection, profound connection with their planetary consciousness, and there is unity at that level? And then those entire, planetary spheres begin interacting with one another. That's a much more interesting emerging paradigm. I remember channeling for somebody their Andromedan aspect, and this is what they showed us, that they are in constant connection with 7 planets, consciousness and what's going on there, and keeping the harmony and the regulation of balance for a very, very advanced level of civilization, right? It doesn't have to be the way it's been. So in some ways it's like, let's forget our history as humans. It's going to hold us back from dreaming a new dream, bringing the new paradigm in. So that's actually, I'm getting a huge validation on that. That's one of the most powerful things we can do right now, is stop focusing on, thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of years of history where there's conflict, and certainly galactic conflict, local conflict, and holding the space for the now moment and what's possible now. Just something that feels very different and very good. And I'm going to end this transmission by doing a little bit of telepathic communication, because I feel like it's time. it's time to move into that zone. So I'll do a lot of it with my emotional center, and I will project feelings and maybe some images your way. Okay. Drop into your heart space and use your whole field to receive, right? We're going beyond the mind now. There's a lot that just went down. I hope you enjoyed that. Love you all.